Good evening and welcome to the State We're In, Connecting Points Weekly Look at Politics. I'm Carrie Saldo. Immigration and the laws that govern it is often a hot-button issue, and that's been the case in our region in the recent weeks, with two women fearing deportation entering sanctuary at churches in Springfield and Northampton. The mayors of these cities have had two very different responses to the issue.
But still, rules and laws and regulations have been broken and not followed. And I just go back to legal immigration, and I hear from...
Meanwhile, Northampton Mayor David Narkowitz said he supported the move and would not interfere. Both women, one from Peru and the other from Russia, are married to Americans and have U.S.-born children. And that's had people reaching out to us with questions about why they could be deported at all. I sat down with a local attorney to take the politics out of this issue and learn some of the ins and outs of immigration law.
To become an actual full-fledged citizen, the prerequisite is to get lawful permanent resident status. So I think there's some confusion around that. Once you have lawful permanent resident status,
and that's a green card,
right? That's a green card. People call it a green card. That gives you most of the rights that citizens have. You can't leave the country for too long or they'll take it away. Say you don't live here anymore, you've abandoned it. Certain crimes will still get you deported. You can't vote, obviously. But it's an important step, and some people just keep it that way forever.
And you don't actually have to become a citizen.
You don't have to become a citizen. Now, you have a green card for 5 years, then you can become a citizen if you meet certain criteria, have good moral character, things like that. So some people can only have to wait 3 years if you're married to a U.S. citizen. So some people have a shorter path. I'm meeting, especially after the last year, a lot of people are coming to me now wanting to apply for citizenship that have had green cards for 20, 30 years.
Any sense of why they're interested in taking that next step?
I think a couple of reasons. I think one is they want to vote. So that's helpful. And another reason is they're afraid. So they've had green cards, they've been able to work, they've had no restrictions on travel or work, but now they're afraid with the rhetoric they're hearing, maybe having a green card is not enough, and they want to take that next step towards citizenship where they will be that secure.
I think in the past few weeks, when we've seen two women go into sanctuary in two different churches in this area, there have been a lot of questions about this issue because each of these women is married to a United States citizen. And I've had people call me and say, well, doesn't that automatically make them a citizen of this country?
Right.
But it doesn't, right?
It absolutely does not. So just like anyone else, they first have to apply for a green card. They have to apply for lawful permanent residence. Now, not everyone is eligible to do that. So if they're in a lawful status first, yes, then they can marry a U.S. citizen and go through that petition process. It takes 6 months to a year. There's an interview with CIS officers. But if they are not in lawful status, okay, if they came in legally, but they overstayed their visa, they can still do it if it's marriage to a U.S. citizen, not other family categories, but marriage to a U.S. citizen. However, if someone came in with no papers, they are actually not eligible to adjust their status to a green card holder through marriage to a U.S. citizen. Now, another common misconception...
So would they then need to leave the country and start the process over?
That's a really good question. Yes, they would have to leave the country and start over. However, there's a problem there because as soon as they leave the country, if they've been unlawfully present for more than a year, they have a 10-year bar on coming back in.
So that becomes really problematic for people who've been living here, have a life with kids.
Oh, absolutely. And that law was enacted in 1997, went into effect in 1997. So it created a real bottleneck because a lot of foreign nationals who had no papers were married to U.S. citizens, but as soon as they talked to an immigration lawyer, they realized they had no choice. They're stuck. If they go back, they risk being stuck for 10 years. There is a waiver process, but you have to show extreme hardship on the U.S. citizen. President Obama made this a little bit easier because he expanded the process. So you can apply for a waiver before you go home to start that process. So if you're married to a U.S. citizen, you can ask the government for a special pass from that 10-year bar, and they'll tell you before you leave if you're going to get it. But another common misconception I see a lot is the U.S. citizen child. Having a U.S. citizen child does not protect you necessarily. You can be deported with U.S. citizen children. I've seen many people deported in the past year with 5 U.S. citizen children. It doesn't actually get you any immediate benefits in most cases.
Wow.
Now, if you can hang out until that U.S. citizen is 21 years old, they might be able to petition for you as an adult, maybe. But again, you'd have to have that lawful entry at some point. It's the same as a U.S. citizen marriage.
Let's look a little more at process. So in terms of actually wanting to file for citizenship, as I understand it, it's a form, and are there 76 boxes that you need to be able to check and affirmatively confirm?
It's all security questions. The green card application form has this too. A lot of them are a little bit archaic. We still ask if people were Nazis in Germany during World War II. We ask people about terrorist activities, about any kind of criminal activity. A lot of questions about prior immigration applications. They're looking for history of fraud, history of crime. They're really vetting you. It's their last chance to catch you at the citizenship stage.
And so I know you work a lot with this issue with people who are interested in either getting a green card or taking a path to citizenship. What's the most common reason that you find people are denied?
What we're seeing with a lot of people now is they actually already have deportation orders from an immigration judge. So if you come here, you are unlawfully present, ICE finds you. ICE is sort of the immigration police.
Right.
They find you and they say, okay, well, you're not here legally. So say if I'm a foreign national, I have no status, I'm here for 10 years without status, ICE catches me. I'm not going to get deported. I'm going to be given a date to appear in a court in Boston if we're in Massachusetts. And then an immigration judge will hear the case, and it may take actually 3 or 4 years to get a final hearing before that judge. So, but once you get through the judge, if the judge orders you deported, you can appeal it once, but after that, if you have a deportation order, it's very hard to do anything else after that, because you have a deportation order. Like I have clients that had, their daughter's a U.S. citizen, she's 21, but they have deportation orders from 10 years ago. So even though she's a U.S. citizen, she can apply for them, but nobody will let them do it. They absolutely cannot do it unless we can convince a judge to reopen their case and give them a second chance in the court.
I want to ask you quickly about this concept of good moral standing. I noticed on the Homeland Security website, it says, quote, be a person of good moral character, attached to the principles of the Constitution of the United States, and well disposed to good order and happiness of the United States during all relevant periods under law. How is that even determined?
The most important factor is their criminal record. So they want to see that there really hasn't been, it doesn't take much of a crime for them to decide that you do not have good moral character during the period. So a lot of people come to us, say, can I apply for citizenship? I said, well, why don't you be on good behavior for 3 years and then we'll try again. Other than that, they do want to see you're paying your taxes. So that can be an issue if you owe taxes, if you owe child support. They really care about that a lot. But for the most part, if there's no black mark, then the default assumption is that you are a person of good moral character.
Well,
you don't have to bring letters or work with community service or be a volunteer firefighter or anything like that. But if you do have a crime, those things might help balance it out.
Understood. It's a complex issue. I appreciate you taking some time to help us understand the nuances.
Thank you for having me.